For our land, for our faith, for our people, we fight to the last breath. I am Dmitry Ivanovich Donskoy, Grand Prince of Moscow and the man who dared to challenge the Mongol yoke that had long cast its shadow over our lands. I was born to rule, to lead, and to fight not merely for power but for the very survival of Rus. I was the first to stand against the Golden Horde and claim victory, setting the path toward the liberation of my people. This is my story. I was born in 1350, in the heart of Moscow, to Grand Prince Ivan II the Meek and Princess Alexandra Vasilievna of Smolensk. My father was a wise but cautious ruler, navigating the dangerous waters of Mongol rule. As a child, I witnessed firsthand the burdens of leadership and the constant threat posed by the Mongols who demanded tribute and subservience from all Russian princes. Even as a boy, I knew that Moscow was destined for something greater. I was raised with stories of the great warriors of Rus, and I vowed that I would be among them. I spent my youth training in the arts of war, mastering the sword, the bow, and the tactics that would one day serve me in battle. I also learned the delicate art of diplomacy, understanding that strength was not merely measured in steel but in alliances and loyalty. Tragedy struck when my father died in 1359, leaving me at the mere age of 9 as the Grand Prince of Moscow. I was still a child, but I was no fool. I understood that the boyars, the nobles who surrounded my court, saw me as weak. The Mongols saw me as a puppet to be controlled. They all underestimated me, and they would all be proven wrong. At first, I was at the mercy of the powerful boyars and the whims of the Mongol Khan. However, with the guidance of my wise mentor, Metropolitan Alexius, I learned the art of governance and military strategy. Under his tutelage, I recognized that Moscow's strength lay in unity, in the ability to rally the scattered principalities of Rus under one banner. My first test came in 1368 when our longtime rivals, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, led by Algirdas, invaded Moscow. The Lithuanian forces sought to crush our growing power, but I was prepared. 3 times they came, and 3 times I repelled them, proving that Moscow was not to be taken easily. I ordered the construction of white stone walls around the Kremlin, fortifying our city against invaders. This was the first time Moscow had defenses of such strength, and it was only the beginning of my vision. But my true enemy was not the Lithuanians, it was the Mongols. For over a century, the Golden Horde had ruled Rus, extracting tribute and humiliating our princes. I knew that so long as we paid them, we would never be free. I began preparing for the inevitable confrontation, gathering allies, strengthening our army, and instilling in my people a new sense of pride. By the late 1370s, the Horde was in turmoil. Their power was waning, and their Khan, Mamai, struggled to maintain control. Sensing an opportunity, I defied his authority. I stopped sending tribute. Mamai responded as all Mongol Khans had before him. He prepared for war. In 1378, I led my forces to our first victory against the Horde at the Battle of the Voza River. It was a small battle, but it sent a powerful message. The Horde could be beaten. The Mongols had never known fear from the Russians before, but I made them hesitate. 2 years later, in 1380, Mamai gathered a massive army, determined to crush me. I called upon all the Russian princes to stand together, setting aside old rivalries for the sake of our land. Many hesitated. Fear of Mongol retribution ran deep. But Prince Vladimir of Serpukhov and the legendary Dmitry Bobrock-Volinsky stood with me. On September 8, 1380, on the vast Kulikovo field, we met the Horde in battle. I led from the front, clad in armor like my men. The Mongols charged, their arrows darkening the sky. The battle raged for hours, chaos and death on all sides. It seemed we might break until the moment arrived. In a desperate gamble, I had hidden my finest warriors, the ambush regiment, in a nearby forest. At the height of the battle, when the Mongols thought they had us, they charged from the trees, smashing into the enemy's flank. The Horde wavered. Then they fled. For the first time in over 100 years, a Russian army had defeated the Mongols. The victory at Kulikovo was a turning point, but it was not the end. In 1382, Toktamish, a new Khan of the Horde, sacked Moscow in revenge. But the seed of independence had been planted. The people no longer saw the Mongols as invincible. One day they would be driven out completely. I spent my final years strengthening Moscow, uniting the principalities, and preparing the next generation to continue our fight. In 1389, I passed my throne to my son, Vasily I, ensuring that the struggle for a free Rus would not end with me. Though I did not live to see the complete end of Mongol rule, my victory at Kulikovo proved that we could resist, that we could win. It was the first great step toward a united, independent Russia. I was Dmitry Donskoy, the warrior prince who dared to defy an empire. And though I have long since passed, my sword still echoes in the winds of history. From the battlefields of Kulikovo to the halls of the Kremlin, my spirit endures in the heart of Russia.